الله تعالى في الفرقان الحميد ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا ومن كفر فإن الله غني عن العالمين صدق الله العظيم. First of all, I would like to congratulate all my noble brothers and sisters that are present today to participate in this Hajj workshop. In addition to that, I would like to congratulate in advance those brothers and sisters that will be performing Hajj this year, and Allah Rabbul Izzat grant each one of them a Hajj Mabrur. Normally what we see when it comes to Hajj workshops, now even the flyer that we witnessed, the flyer was saying intense Hajj workshop. And this word intense in itself is a deterrent. Hajj is one of the easiest rituals to fulfill. So you can drop your guard. It's not going to take very long. There's only a few things that we have to understand as principles. And once we understand those principles, the application of those principles is what we have to discuss. That's it. And Hajj will be accomplished. Now, before we start, I would like my noble audience to understand the definition of three terms. And that will not only assist you when it comes to the performance of Hajj, but it will assist you in all different rituals. We are very familiar with the words that I'm going to use, but there is an understanding in the community that is not at par when it comes to the true implication of these definitions. So the first is a faraz. So everyone knows what a faraz is. We have heard this many a times. A ritual that is compulsory. Now keep in mind, and this is what I want you to focus upon, and I would like you to register this to mind so it will assist you in understanding the different rituals of Hajj. That if a Hajj is forsaken intentionally or unintentionally, it leaves the ritual invalid. Let me say that again. A faraz is an act that if it is left out intentionally or unintentionally, irade ke saath ya baghair irade ke, it will leave that ritual invalid. The ritual will not be accepted. Let's turn our mind to a ritual that we are very familiar with, and that is the establishment of prayer. So when a person establishes prayer, there are certain actions in the prayer that are classified as faraz. And if a person is to miss them, for example, the standing position in a compulsory prayer is compulsory. It is faraz. Qiyam. Now if a person, out of forgetfulness or willingly, he forsakes this one standing in a compulsory prayer, the ruling is very clear that he missed a compulsory component, so his prayer will be invalid. Understood? Alright. So there is no makeup if a compulsory component has been forsaken. Number two, wajib. A wajib action is very similar to a compulsory action, but there is a very slight difference, and that slight difference will really benefit the pilgrims when performing Hajj. So the slight difference is what I want to focus upon, and that is that if a wajib is missed out, there is a method by which you can compensate for it. For a farz you can't compensate. But for a wajib action that has been missed out upon, there is a method by which a person can compensate for it. Now in Hajj, let's go to the prayer first of all. If one person is praying the witr prayer, now the recitation of Qanut in the third unit after Surah Fatiha, after Surah is wajib. Now if one person missed that, as long as he is still in the prayer, he can make up for it. And how will he make up for it? He will make sajda sahw. He makes the sajda sahw, that will compensate for the missing of the wajib, the ruling will be that his prayer is accepted. But if he was not to make up for it through the sajda sahw, then the classification will be that the prayer is invalid. So the slight difference between a farz and a wajib is that there is no compensation for the missing of a farz, but there is a compensation for the missing of a wajib. The third, sunnah. If a person was to miss a sunnah, it will not leave the ritual invalid, but it will deprive the ritual from true and complete blessing. So in reality, a sunnah is to adorn and beautify the ritual. So if a person is to establish a ritual and he beautifies it with the sunnah, the reward that he will gain from this ritual will be complete and comprehensive. So keep that in mind. If a person is to miss out on a sunnah, and let's apply that to Hajj now. If he is to miss out on a sunnah of Hajj and he returns back home without paying a penalty, because there is no paying of a penalty on the missing of a sunnah, his Hajj will be accepted, but indeed he will receive less reward compared to that person who performed his Hajj by being mindful of the sunnah. Make sense? So these are the three things: farz, wajib and sunnah. Now, at the end of the Hajj seminar or this workshop, if we can learn the fara'iz of Hajj and the wajibat of Hajj, we will be in the safe zone. That's it. That's why I made mention of these three classifications. So if a person can be mindful of what is faraz in Hajj, and what is faraz in Umrah, and what is wajib in Hajj, and what is wajib in Umrah, and what is sunnah in Hajj, and what is sunnah in Umrah, he can return back safely, satisfied that I have established a complete Hajj. Make sense? Alright. Now, we will speak about the Hajj that we are going to perform. So, people that are traveling from overseas, from Australia, they are going to perform Hajj Tamattu'. Now, literally, lexically, Tamattu' means to benefit. Lexically, literally, Tamattu' means to benefit. Faida utana. And when we study this word Tamattu' in the light of Hajj, in the terminologies of Hajj, we come to know it is to join two major rituals. One is the ritual of Hajj, and one is the ritual of Umrah in one journey. That's it. So, when a person, if you even think about it and study it, when a person is going to perform Hajj, you will say, I'm going to perform Hajj. The word Umrah is not used. The word that is used is Hajj. And that's what people go to do. They go to perform Hajj. But en route, a person will benefit from the moment, from the journey, and he will perform Umrah as well. Now, Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his whole life performed 4 Umrahs and 1 Hajj. He performed 4 Umrahs and 1 Hajj. That is documented. Now, the Nabi of Allah performed 1 Hajj, and he was mounted on a camel. And think about it, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mounted on the camel, making tawaf of the Kaaba. And I would like you to depict and visualize that 2 years before the performance of Hajj was the conquest of Mecca. So Hajj took place 10 years after migration. Conquest of Mecca took place 8 years after migration, in 8 Hijri. And in 8 Hijri there were 10,000 Sahaba in the conquest of Mecca. And if you depict and visualize the structure of the Kaaba in those days, it was not similar to what we see nowadays. It was very, very different. To my understanding, what I have read, the mataf alone can accommodate up to 60 or 70,000 people. But in those days, the condition was much poorer compared to the condition of the mataf and the structure. 2 years after 8 Hijri, in the first and final Hajj of the Nabi of Allah, there were 124,000 Sahaba. That's why the Prophet of Allah mounted himself on the camel. So people from the distance could see, because they were going to learn what is right and what is wrong in relation to Hajj from the blessed presence of the Nabi of Allah. And if the Nabi of Allah ﷺ was to make tawaf on his feet, only those that were very close by would witness and bear testimony to this. So the Nabi of Allah, he was mounted on the camel and he was performing all the rituals, so people from far distance could witness and they can become a narrator to this narration. Make sense? Alright. Now, people that are going to go from Australia, they're going to perform Hajj Tamattu. The Hajj in which they are going to perform one Hajj and at least one Umrah, and it is up to the person, to his capacity, to his ability to perform multiple Umrahs. I know many people that they have performed multiple Umrahs in this one journey. So the Tamattu is inclusive to one Hajj, one Umrah, and it is inclusive to one Hajj and many Umrahs. Make sense?
Can you define Hajj and Umrah? And what
it's all coming, all coming. Yeah, we're going to define that. We're going to make a separation of that. Alright, now, to understand or to make it easy for us to perform the rituals of Hajj, it is essential to understand Umrah as well. Because most of Hajj depends upon the knowledge of Umrah. And normally what people will do is that they will perform Umrah before Hajj. That's what's going to happen. So let's visualize ourselves performing Umrah. Now before performing Umrah, there are certain things that we have to do. And that's what I want to speak about. Somebody even, I think last night or the night before that, I think it was Brother Waqas who was asking me. And that's why I said, leave it to the Hajj workshop and I would like to explain it. Now if you have a question whilst I'm speaking, just raise your hand. I don't want my noble audience to be following me to my house after the workshop. It is your workshop, it is my workshop, and we want to end it here. So once we have completed, I want you to be satisfied in your mind. Now keep in mind, a workshop or an intensive workshop does not mean that you are going to leave having the complete knowledge of Hajj. The person speaking doesn't know all the rulings. There are so many different rulings pertaining to Hajj. It is a very complex ritual. And why it is complex? Because we don't establish it on a daily basis. We know the rulings of namaz and salah because we are establishing it on a daily basis. But Hajj is once in a lifetime if we are fortunate, or if we are very, very fortunate, a few times. That's why the speaker may even forget many, many rulings. And that's why it is imperative, most important, that we stick to the basics. We don't go into the depth and into the details because that will confuse you and it will confuse me as well. I'm making a very sincere statement here. Sitting here and saying I'm a great scholar of Hajj. Jude. There are many, many rulings pertaining to Hajj. It is very complex. Now, when a person establishes his prayer, he raises his hands to his earlobes and he says, Allahu Akbar. What does this Allahu Akbar bring in the life of this musalli? What does it imply? So when a person says Allahu Akbar, first of all, this Allahu Akbar is known as takbir tahrima. And takbir tahrima means that certain things that were permissible a few moments ago have become non-permissible. So this person that just raised his hand, a few moments ago he was conversing, he was eating, he was drinking, and suddenly he has raised his hand, and now he is in communication with the Creator, and certain things that were permissible have become prohibited. Takbira tahrima. Tahrima. I want you to focus upon that word, tahrima. It is from the root word haram. Ihram. Ihram. Haram. So a person is going to wear the ihram now. So certain things that were permissible a few moments ago are going to become non-permissible. That is the ihram. Now I'm going to put a question to you. I'm going to play around with your mind so you can really understand what this means. If Brother Waqas gave me 2 sheets, 2 white sheets, unstitched, and I covered myself with those sheets, has anything become haram on me? I'll say that once again. Get 2 sheets, unstitched, and I wrap myself with those 2 sheets, sitting in Brisbane in Holland Park Mosque. Has anything become haram upon me?
No.
So what makes certain things haram? Is it the covering yourself with the sheets, or is it the intention? It is the intention. It is the intention that will determine the starting point where permissible becomes non-permissible. The intention. Right? Keep that in mind. And I would like you to really register this fine point. When a person makes the intention, that's when things become non-permissible. Not with the wearing of the sheet. The wearing of the sheet is an indication to the onlookers that this person is performing Hajj. But if a person was in the noble sanctuary and he was wearing the sheet and he didn't make the intention, he has not started his ritual. Intention is most important. And why I make mention of this is because in books, and I don't like my audience to read too much of the books, because that will confuse you. That really does confuse people, reading too many books without a teacher. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to put a scenario to you. I'm standing up now, and I would like you to visualize that I have 2 sheets, 2 white sheets, and I'm going to perform Umrah before Hajj in the same journey. So sum total is that this is Hajj Tamattu', but now I'm making the intention of performing Umrah. Right? This is what I'm going to do. So normally when I pray, I cover my head. Normally when I pray, I cover my head. Now there are many people when they pray, they don't cover their head. True. Many people that they don't cover their head. But myself, I do cover my head when praying. So now what happens is, before entering into the state of ihram, where permissible becomes non-permissible, what am I going to do? I want to be in a state of complete purity. I want to commit this body and this soul to the Creator, where the apparent, the visible is pure, and where the non-visible, the internal, is pure as well. And to establish purity on the visible, I need to take a bath. I need to take a bath. And if I can't take a bath, at least I remove the impurity by performing ablution. Wudu. And to remove the impurity that is not visible to me, it's not tangible, but if it is visible to Allah, I make tawbah. So the body, the external, the soul, the internal, completely is in the state of purity when I enter ihram. Make sense? Alright. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make tawbah first. From all the past sins, minor or major, committed in daylight or committed in the darkness of the night, willingly, unwillingly, saghira or kabira, in public, in private. So I made that tawbah. I made that tawbah. Then I perform, I urinate, I defecate, I respond to the call of nature. And after responding to the call of nature, I make wudu. Or I take a bath.